All right, zoning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines will remain off. Go for it.
Thank you, Matt, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals work session for April 1st, 2025.
Excuse me.
We have a few administrative applications this evening. I'll read the first one into the record. The applicant is Schultz at 1 Eel Cove Road, Wainscott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-19. Should I read both of them into the record at the same time? I'll read the second one in too because they're next door, same process. The second one is Green Acres LLC at 3 Eel Cove Road in Wainscott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-20, and that is to cut by hand approximately 7,000 square feet of invasive Phragmites within wetlands. Secret declaration is required. And Tyler, you're going to address both of them for us?
So the first is the secret declaration, which I sent around. I'll bring it up just so you can see it. It's very straightforward. The type 2, it's the part 2 and part 3 of an unlisted action short form. All the answers are no. It's very low impact, and I answered some of the questions just to give some of the information in there. But it's ultimately clearing of Phragmites in order to help hopefully promote native vegetation to come in and increase diversity rather than a monoculture of Phragmites, as often happens when the invasive Phragmites takes over. So that's ultimately what the EAF says. There's no impacts. It's hand cutting. There's no significant digging. No machinery is going to be used. It's low impact. It'll be a couple times a year for 5 years. So they've had 2 permits in the past. So they've had this a couple times. I was at the property somewhat recently, and the Phragmites is not super thick, so that seems to be doing something. But these are the 2 properties. This is the 1 Eel Cove, the Schultz application, and then this is the property line between the 2, and this is that property line, and this is the second property. They're both around 7,000 square feet of Phragmites. It is thinning, but it would be just along the shoreline of these 2 properties. Fairly straightforward Phragmites application. Again, they've had them in the past. It's very similar to the one that you'll hear later tonight. But my wife really likes it. LLC application, same process, administrative review for Phragmites removal.
Thank you. Is it my understanding the declaration of lead agency comes before the secret determination?
Yeah, and we can do it all in one resolution. Which would be tonight. So, but you can go through the EAF right now if you're comfortable.
Okay. All right, board members, we have a short form EAF in front of us that we've been given. Does anybody have any questions on it? As Tyler said, all check boxes are no. Does anybody have any questions?
I just had a question, not disputing anything on the EAF 3, that it says those native species that you're trying to have. What are some of them? I'm just curious.
There could be any number of native species. What's there now? I can't remember off the top of my head what's on the property now. I know I saw some woody vegetation that was there. I can't recall off the top of my head what was there on the property. Sorry.
Any other questions, board members?
I don't have any.
I'll do a motion on each one individually. I think that'd be easier. So therefore, with Schultz at 1 Eel Cove Road, Wainscott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-19, I make a motion to declare lead agency and to declare neg deck on the secret.
Second.
Concur.
Thank you. Therefore, on Green Acres LLC, 3 Eel Cove, Wainscott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-20, I make a motion to declare lead agency and neg deck.
Second.
Concur.
Thank you. Next, administrative application is Construction 101 LLC. I think. Which one?
We need to vote to move administrative on those as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We have to do that.
To process them as administrative.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
As well. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
board members, are we okay to make a motion on the administrative application for the first two?
Yes.
Yes.
Therefore, I make a motion on Schultz at 1 Ill Cove Road, Wayne-Scott, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-200-3-19 to allow the process to proceed administratively.
Second,
Concur.
Concur.
Thank you. Second, Green Acres LLC, 3 Eel Cove Road, Wayne-Scott, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-200-3-20 to allow the application to proceed administratively.
second,
Concur.
Thank you. Next, I think Member Johan will appreciate Construction 101 LLC at 5 Settlement Court, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map Number 300-72-1-3.1, and that is to construct a 4,049 square foot, two-story residence within 470 square feet of porch, 624 square feet of attached garage, 168 square feet of entry, outdoor shower, 238 square feet of roof deck, swimming pool, pool house, patio, fencing, driveway, sanitary system, and clearing within jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. Tyler?
Sure, so this is an unimproved property right now. They are proposing to, there's already a conservation easement on the parcel as part of the subdivision when it was originally created. And the applicant wants to extend the driveway. There's already a driveway over most of the property, most of the flag strip. They want to connect to their property. Construct a 4,049 square foot two-story residence, a swimming pool, a small screen porch and patio, an attached garage, a pool house, and then a sanitary system. Everything meets the required setbacks. The fencing for the pool is right at the 100-foot line, so that gives you an idea that about maybe a little less than half the property is out of jurisdiction entirely. It's fairly straightforward. They're going pretty close to the maximum clearing, so there shouldn't be any concerns with clearing beyond that fence line. The fence will help with that as well, actually. Yeah, we were comfortable. We felt that it was an appropriate project. They're doing the best they can as far as setbacks are concerned, and we were comfortable moving forward administratively.
Tyler, how big is this lot?
The total square footage?
Yeah,
And also, while you're giving that, what if there's a reduced square footage to exclude the wetlands and, the buildable number?
Excluding, well, the overall lot area is almost 80,000.
oh, wow.
Excluding the flag strip, which you would use for clearing purposes, is 65,000 square feet, and excluding wetlands is 59,800. So just under 60,000, excluding the flag strip and the wetlands.
Okay, so
Is this an IA system or just a?
It has to be.
It has to be.
Yeah, yes,
All right,
yeah.
that's, okay, good.
And it
Where's this
requires no,
located?
Systems in new, it has
this
to be.
is up
What is this
near
near?
Mile Hill, isn't it? Mile Hill Road or?
It's off of Settlement Court, up near like Northwest Landing, that area. Oh my, come on.
but it meets all setbacks. There are no.
Yes,
variances.
absolutely, yeah.
What is the sort of
I'm good with
character and scale of development around this? Just
It's in
curious.
keeping with the neighborhood. I should have.
You can see the map on that
Actually,
one
I can pull up
there.
the aerial.
Like,
Yeah.
There's definitely large lots with, good sized houses on them.
And Tyler, that's a reserve area to the north?
To the north of the lot, yes, there's a reserved area between lots.
it's town-owned. Is it town-owned reserve yet?
I'd have to check.
Kind of says it on the
I
right
think so.
side.
Any other questions? Board members, are we okay to,
I'm okay
He
with
was
it.
going to show the,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Are we gonna do the aerial?
A lag in the
Sorry.
IT department. He's trying to pull it up.
Yeah, it's just being very slow.
I guess while we're waiting for Tyler to pull it up, I guess in prior potential administrative applications such as this, I know I have voted to go to public hearing with them because it's a, complete and meaningful redevelopment. So it needs an NRSP, it doesn't need variances, but I've tended to lean towards public hearing. I just wanted to get that, see if any other board members have feel the same way or maybe not. Because I know it takes a unanimous vote to go admin.
Are we waiting for him to pull up an aerial?
Yeah.
It's fighting me.
There is one already, right? Yeah. I'm just curious how much they're clearing. I think it's that thing that looks like a lake. Is it? That's the pool.
Looks like a lake.
This is a static aerial of the property. So that's the lot itself, and then the surrounding neighborhood to some degree.
I'm sorry, would you just mind just telling us what will be the total coverage and what will be the total clearing? Just so I can put it in perspective.
Coverage is the proposed building coverage would be 4,074 square feet, where 8,399 is allowed, and total coverage would be 10,465, where 23,924 would be allowed. And clearing is right up near the max. They're allowed 24,952, and they're 24,929.
It's a lot of clearing.
Yeah.
I have no concerns about this. Does anybody?
I don't
I'm fine
either.
with it, thank you.
Okay, I'm okay with it.
I'll be okay. All right.
A motion for Construction 101 LLC, 5 Settlement Court, East Hampton, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-72-1-3.1 to allow the application to proceed administratively.
Second.
Concur.
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 Thank you. We have post-hearing decisions now. The first one, well, I was absent, so I'm going to turn this over to the vice chair, and we have our alternate member, John Thorson, if you can come to the dais. With your shiny
And
new
bring
plaque,
your
John.
bring your plaque.
Bring your plaque with you.
To the team.
Put it right in front of.
Put it right in front of Roy.
Chairman,
Dun, 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 dun.
Nobody put it up there?
Okay, the description, this post-hearing decision is for Daniel and Brooke Nidich, 77 Beach Lane, Wayne Scott, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-3-41.5. The description is to allow a 596 square foot accessory building to be converted into a second dwelling on a parcel. Relief sought is one variance from 255-245A1 of the Town Code is required in order to allow a second residential use on the property where the maximum allowable number of allowable uses is 1, and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is A2 residential zone, ex-flood zone, secret class type 2. Member Johan, would you like to?
I would, thank you very much, Vice Chair. The board will remember that the hearing for this application was held on February 25th, 2025. We were working from David Saskis' survey dated April 19th, 2024, which was received by us on May 10th, 2024. The applicant was represented by Andy Hammer of Lighthouse Land Planning. As was already mentioned, this required one variance from 255-245, A1 in particular. We did receive as part of this, I want to start by saying this is not, this is a straightforward question about how this, the cottage that's in contention can be considered as we move forward. There is a variance. We did receive an applicant's narrative. In that narrative, there was a full description of the history of this particularly attractive cottage, which was moved from one place in Wainscott to another onto this property. It's been there now for a number of years. It's been settled in place, and it has not been used as a residence. They're looking to now convert it into a residence, but of course, they're running into the problem we're going to discuss now. In that narrative and along with that and some of Mr. Hammer's description, the applicants were described as longtime property owners with multiple ownership, multiple properties owned in the area. They're good stewards of the land. It was evidenced by the photos of the property that we saw and the condition that they were in. And that they will provide, this will provide needed housing for them individually, but also the argument will provide some relief for housing that is always a strain in town. Along those lines, they continued with the argument that the town should be looking for this as a potential relief because after all, we have this particular shortage in housing, and here's a case where they can quickly and easily and attractively, I'd have to say it's an attractive location, provide that. But that's not the issue in front of us. The question was whether or not we can allow a second use on property when clearly there is a code stating otherwise. If we go to 255, 245, which is referenced, it states there that any one district lot or any one residential property can use only one use will be allowed on that property. When we had that discussion, we had a little bit of discussion about it. What would be the option then if it's clearly stated that only one use can be on the property? Well, obviously there's been a movement towards this ADUs and the affordable accessory apartments. But in reference to that, the town's comments, the lead comment on all affordable accessory apartments clearly states homeowners with owner-occupied homes in East Hampton, which are their primary legal residences, are permitted to construct accessory apartments to provide additional affordable housing for the community. The key here, and the thing that led to all our discussion, is their primary legal residences, which is not the case in the ownership of this parcel. While it is long held within the family, they do not live there full time. Therefore, we go back to talking about what was the code designed to direct here and designed to comment on. If you go to 255-1163, we see that there are some guidelines there for anyone looking to make an application for an affordable accessory apartment on their land. There, if you go through that and read through it, and that's for anyone making the application, it repeatedly states that the principal residence must be owner-occupied. Under 255-1163, 3A1, the principal dwelling must be owner-occupied. Many other references in there coming back to the fact that that's where we stand. One of the things here to be considered, and we're brought up in the conversation, that there's a real need for additional housing in the town, and isn't this a way in which we could move forward with it? That was one of the arguments made by the applicant. My attitude is this, though, however, well, the need for additional housing in East Hampton is obvious, that through 255-1160, and there's a mechanism in place through 255-1163, provided an avenue for homeowners to apply for a permit to create these units. The guidelines established here and in 255-245 have been set to regulate orderly growth and orderly growth and safe implementation in providing these units. And until the town reconstructs, rethinks these the current zoning, these and any other controlling portions of the town code, if they're willing to change any of that, I think we're restricted by what was in front of us. I want to be guided by these standards. I believe that this application is straightforward in what we're being asked to do. We're willing to say that despite the fact that the code is strong and is solid in stating how how an additional affordable unit can be established on one's property, that we would allow this one here because we think this is unique and particularly different than any other one. I just want to go to the quote here from the, if I look at the TAM, I think here that's something that was stated very, this subject parcel is not significantly unique and is not different enough than others for us to consider it to get special exemptions. I think that's true in this case. I think we got asked to look at 255-850 and determine, I think, in particularly here on that, in 255-850, A is what applies to us, whether or not this variance, excuse me, whether or not the variance will create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. The answer to that, to me, is yes. If we're going to talk about that particular house creating some sort of change to the character of the neighborhood in its presence, it's already there. We're not talking about bringing in a house. But I think when we start looking at this, the town has established a series of guidelines based on what they consider to be long-term use of property and how they want to regulate this potential growth. I believe that those are solid reasons, and until the town changes them, I don't feel I can approve this application. So I'm going to deny this application at this time based on those reasons.
Thank you, Member Johan. Member Thorson?
Hi, thank you. I concur with the sentiments expressed by Member Johan. Whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, I believe it will. The application is for a variance to 255-245A1, which limits the use to one of any one residential district lot, which this is. And I believe it would be detrimental to the neighborhood and set an unwanted town-wide precedent. One dwelling per lot is an important principle that I do not believe should be lightly varied from. And we have a letter from a neighbor. I'd like to just read a part of it. This is from David Egan, dated February 24th, 25. And the paragraph I want to read is, he said, and by the way, he starts his letter by saying he's writing in strong opposition to this application. One residential structure per residential lot, A2 residence in this case, is perhaps the most basic tenet of East Hampton Town's zoning code. Any variance from that rule has the real potential to open the floodgates for similar variance requests from myriad part-time residents with the financial means and desire to create a caretaker's cottage or other residence to their residential parcels. It would not be an overstatement to claim that scores of similar variance requests could come from southern Wainscott alone, since at least 90% of the parcels located in that area are not used by their owners as primary residences. 255-850B, ask us to consider whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. And I think the answer is yes, that the East Hampton Town Code does make a provision in the Affordable Dwelling Code as an avenue for this applicant. Whether their eligibility for that affordable dwelling, accessory dwelling unit code is not germane to what we're here to consider. I believe the area variance request is substantial. I believe there are compelling enough reasons. There are not enough compelling reasons to override the fundamental one dwelling per lot provision of town code. I'm going to skip D and talk about C, whether this difficulty is self-caused. I'm not really even clearly seeing what the difficulty is. The shed in question was purchased by the applicant and moved to their property in 2012, and it has apparently sat unused since that time. It is their desire to make it a second dwelling and is therefore self-created. So I believe that the variance in this case is unwarranted, and I vote to deny it.
Thank you, Member Thorson. Member Berger?
Member Berger, yes, thank you. Okay, I too agree with my fellow board members. Reading from you already read some of the stuff I was going to read, but in the TAM also, this particular type of application for second use in this residential area, as it said in the TAM, is exceedingly rare and often extenuating circumstances, usually related, not directly, from changing a lot size or borders, property moving it from one property to another. None of those circumstances exist in this case, and as it states in the TAM, approving this would be tantamount to really setting a new precedent for similar type variances. This was. The agent for the applicant was, they went through a story of, how cute, how historic this shed is and its movement and how, it has made the press. There was a book written about it, but all of that is totally irrelevant to the case at hand. Back when they moved the shed to that property, it was a shed. It's not livable, it's not habitable. And it doesn't have any real historic designated definition. So again, I will read the standard 255A50. The grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and will create a detriment to nearby properties. I believe that will happen. This would set a precedent with many other situations in the town that could possibly take advantage of this same thing. The benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. And I also agree with my board members that, yes, if they can go through the ADU process with the town and work on that, going that way. And the area variance is substantial. It's almost unprecedented to have a second residential use on this. And it will have an adverse effect on the impact of the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood, again, in the potential to cause the proliferation of this type of situation throughout the town. And where the difficulty causing the applicant to request an area variance was self-created, it absolutely was. I know that's not totally, part of our decision, but in this case in particular, when the shed was moved from another location, and specifically they had to, I don't know if they had to remove a kitchen or anything else like that, but when it got onto this property, it was just a shed and remains that. So I think it was self-created also. So I too am going to deny this variance request.
Thank you, Member Berger. Member Mary?
Yes, thank you. So the applicant made, as I watched it again, the applicant made two cases for granting the variance. The first, which has been discussed, was basically asking the board through a series of covenants potentially to create, sorry, I used to work on Wall Street, so I'll use this term, to create a synthetic ADU instrument, by covenanting in ways that would sort of replicate what the, conditions and restrictions the town puts on ADUs. And secondly, although they didn't spend as much time on it, there was a suggestion that, the scenic and historical, and we know it's not designated, but historical sort of significance and quality of the structure, was somehow compelling enough to also allow it to be a residence. So I don't see either of those cases as sufficient to grant this variance under the standards of 258-850. In particular, the recourse around the request for an ADU on the property leads, is best trod by an applicant and their agents at the podium in front of the town board, who is responsible for creating, evolving policy and procedures around ADUs. And interestingly, today, the town board had a very lengthy session specifically about this question of should they change the code to allow second home owners to have ADUs? So I'm not going to get into, and I don't have an opinion on that, but, that path is there. And, when I look at, are there other, the B, 255-850B, the achievement by some other method, perhaps that method is not there right now, but there is some visibility that it could be, and that is the method to have the outcome that they would seek. And then also, there's nothing that, creating a residence out of a shed has nothing to do with preserving that, sort of historical like cottage. What was not made, in my view, by the applicant was a solid case related to 255-850, the standards for granting a variance. And I will also go through them very quickly. Granted the variance because it is granting a variance that relates to, as I think Mr. Member, we call you Member Thorson, not alternate, right? Member Thorson, noted this is a, very core, very core piece of code. And it is, definitively key. The one residence per one residential lot is not, as the TAM also says, we have to be cautious granting variances from section of the town code that are seldom varied from and seemingly granted only when unique circumstances exist. And I think, as my fellow board members said, I did not find the arguments made or the case made to give us really any unique circumstances existing that would justify granting such a substantial variance. And per se, this is substantial, not in a numerical fashion, but it's binary. You're either doing it or you're not. And I think it would be very hard for the board to ignore what precedent would be set and the potential that we could be, flooded with other applications, for the similar things that were requested. Again, I'm also not clear what the difficulty is and whether there are other alternatives. It was part of the public hearing record, disclosed that the applicant, I think, owns 3 properties. I don't know if there are other ways to accommodate. I think they talked about having their caretaker live there, potentially house, in another way on any of their co-owned lots. So all in, I too will be denying this variance.
Thank you, Member Mary. I too agree with all my fellow board members. I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said. It's clearly in my notes as well, everything that you've so clearly and thoroughly already addressed. But I also would like to say that I don't feel this is a request like this is even within the purview of this board. If approved, we'd actually be amending the town code. So there's actually no justification in our code for having 2 COs and 2 residences on one single lot. And the town board has addressed affordable housing issues in a very thoughtful way in order to assist families needing help or aid. So the applicant does have alternatives. So I will be agreeing with my board members and denying this application. Are we good, counsel?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're back on, David.
I want to go behind.
Put him, go behind. You're welcome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chairman.
We next have Alexander Hecker and Kaja Barberi at 106 Meeting House Lane. Actually, and I'm against it, Suffolk tax map number 300-172-8-32.2. Size and location is 20,000 square feet at 106 Meeting House Lane, East Hampton. The description is to allow an as-built garage to remain within side and rear yard setbacks and outside pyramid regulations, and to allow a patio to remain within side yard setbacks. Relief sought, 7 variances are required for this application. 4 variances of 6.4 feet, 1.7 feet, 0.2 feet, and 0.4 feet are needed from 255-1172 of the Town of East Hampton Code to allow a cupola with a weather vane and a garage to remain outside pyramid regulations from the western and northern property lines, and 3 variances of 2 feet, 1.2 feet, and 0.8 feet are needed from 255-1110 to allow the garage to remain 8 feet, 8.8 feet from the western and northern property lines where 10 foot is the minimum required, and a masonry patio to remain 14.2 feet from the southern property line where 15 feet is a minimum required, and any other relief necessary. The B zoning district is B residence, X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. Member Mearing?
Yes, thank you. The public hearing on this application was held on March 18th. The applicant was represented by Mr. Carl Irace. During the public hearing, we worked off of following relevant documents. Most recent survey was dated December 26, 2023 from Patrick A. Hines, land surveyor. There were also prior surveys related to 2015, I think 2 building permits issued in 2015 that were contained in the existing conditions memo. We have a TAM dated February 17th, 2025 per Morgan Slater. I believe the attorney represented that he had spoken with some of the notice neighbors, and that they seemed to convey that they had no objections. However, I don't believe I saw anything actually submitted into the record from any members of the public, and no one spoke or called in that night. I guess the issues came before us related to a requested CO inspection. It was requested by the applicant, I imagine. So just to review, of the total 7 variances requested, 6 relate to a structure which is noticed as a quote garage, but is clearly not a garage. It's an accessory structure, shed. And of those, 4 relate to pyramid variances, and another relate to property line setback variance relief requested. And then there's 1 more property line setback relief requested for like a piece of slate patio. So let me just take the slate piece of patio first. The variance that's requested for it is, I think it's 10 inches. It needs it violates the, sorry, strong word, but it pierces the setback by 10 inches. And I will be willing to grant that because several reasons. Number 1, actually the other decking and patio structures on the south side of the property, per the survey, also are not fully meeting a 15-foot side yard setback. This is on the southern property line. It wasn't clear why they were not flagged, although I think those probably less than 6 inches, and so they could have just been waved through per the discretion of the building inspector. And this very small area of slate patio on the ground is very minimal. The variance is de minimis. I think it will have no impact at all on character, surrounding neighbors. In addition, that side that side boundary line is actually buffered from the next neighbors because there's like I don't know if it's 20 feet wide, but you can see on the survey, that gravel access road. So I'm going to approve that variance. Okay, now going back to the shed, first I'll tackle the pyramid variances. 3 of the 4 pyramid variances are not substantial, and we're looking at them now. When you look at that's the as-built. So the pyramid line, I mean, basically the roof is touching. 3 of the 4 variances are for the roof line. And as you can see, it is also not a substantial piercing of pyramid. And they are not, as I said, de minimis. That structure, because it's not a patio or it's not a roof deck or it's not something that's really going to be heavily used on the outside, and there's not even a lot of fenestration on this thing. It's not a garage. There aren't cars going in and out. So I don't think this set of very small pyramid variances will have any negative impact on neighbors or on the character of the area. And same thing, I'm going to say the same thing with respect to the side yard setback relief request. It is also small, relatively speaking. Now, the shed was not built to the standards for which it was approved. That's not a wonderful fact. However, it was explained to us that the reason is for the failure to fully meet the side yard and rear yard setback was basically builder's error. And I can appreciate that. So when it comes to the pyramid variant, the first 3 pyramid variances I just talked about, and the side yard setbacks, I feel like it meets the standards of the 5 variance standards. I think, asking that shed to be moved or reconstructed would be an incredibly heavy lift relative to the relief that's being asked of us, which just leaves me now with the cupola, which is the biggest numeric pyramid variance at 6.5 feet. I think it's a small structure. And I'm going to, didn't find something specifically with respect to cupolas, but I guess this is how I'm looking at it. Chimneys, as I understand it, are exempt from pyramid requirements, right? You can pierce it with any size. And I'm going to liken a cupola to a structure that is like a chimney. And I don't think this cupola will have any impact either. There's no beacon of light shining out of it or anything. So even though it is a very substantial numerical variance and percentage variance, I don't think this either has any impact on neighbors, conditions, environmental. And then just lastly, I am pretty familiar with, the historic land use patterns in this area, and the lanes is filled with, pre-existing non-conforming shed structures on the backs of properties that are basically non-conforming to lot area, lot lines and even pyramids. So I don't see this as out of character or anything. So all in full, I'm approving this application.
Thank you. Jerry?
Okay, I agree with most of what Member Meering said. Going back, taking in the same order, the patio, the masonry, that was de minimis in my view of the variance requested for that, 0.8 feet. So I am going to approve that. I don't think that has any impact on the neighborhood, good or bad. Well, good or bad. I guess it's good for the applicant. The dimensional variances for the garage, again, due to the mismeasurement of the project, the 2 foot and the 1.2 foot for the garage. I too think that I'm going to approve that. I think that also makes no impact on the neighborhood. And to try to rectify that would just be more disruption than it warrants. So we'll be approving those. The variances for the pyramid is where it differ a little bit. I agree with the pyramids for the garage, the 1.7, the 0.2, and the 0.4. I think on the approved survey in the project sheet that it had, you could see that everything would have met had those measurements not been taken incorrectly. And then on the as-built, you could see where it just pierces the roof slightly, the pyramid line. But again, it's the cupola and the weather vane that causes the variance required for the pyramid to be 6.4 feet. And I do find that substantial. I was looking at the existing conditions memo and the GIS photo from 2024. When I look at that for this property, these lots are very deep and very narrow, and the cupola as it stands in this property, I think could be a detriment to the neighborhood, to the neighbor to the north in particularly. Yeah, I know the agent said that it's a double lot, so there is nothing on that lot immediately to the north, but that doesn't mean it will always be like that. So I am going to deny the variance for the cupola and the weather vane.
Thank you. Denise?
Okay, I am looking at these as, these are minor encroachments that will really not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The variances, I don't feel, are substantial. The neighboring homes will not be affected by the grant of a pyramid since their light and air will not be diminished. Grant of this application will not negatively affect any physical or environmental conditions. The contractor error is, in my opinion, not relevant since the ultimate responsibility is the applicant's. As stated in Carl Iarace's narrative, there are no protective natural features or environmental conditions that are put at increased risk because of the contractor error. I think that these are the minimum variances necessary, and I will be approving this application in its entirety.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go follow the same pattern that was laid out by Member Mearing. I'll start with the patio. I think that I will approve the patio. I think the most compelling reason is that, as was mentioned by you, there are other patios on that side that go over to a driveway. The driveway is a buffer. I don't see that. But it's a minimum amount. I don't see that as a potential problem long-term. So it was easy enough knowing that the other patios, the other decks that are there have got very much the same condition, and ones that probably much more of a concern if there wasn't a driveway to protect it. But I think that we go back and talk about the one main thing here, of course, is the garage. I think a key thing here is the location of the garage on the property, where you talked about what a deep lot it is. It's in a back corner. I'm agreeing with the vice chair here that we hear builders mistake all the time. That's not our problem. That's your problem. You hire a builder and they make a mistake. However, we know it happens. What is the net result here? I'm going to agree with my board members in saying I don't think it has a great impact. To the north, there is a significant amount of vegetation now that protects it. The pyramid variances in terms of the slopes of the roof are minor, and I don't think they do anything for the slight amount that they are to change anyone's view or to create a necessarily problem for an immediate neighbor. It's interesting to note that the one to the west, the house is set at least 100 or more feet away. So I don't see this as being a problem. I think that the large variance involving the cupola, it takes time to consider. I think that it's one that we do not readily approve pyramid variances very much. Two factors enter into it. One, Member Mearing mentioned that chimneys can have very much the same effect in terms of their mass, and we see very large chimneys that get built and can kind of overpower a neighbor's view and can create shadows and whatnot. I don't see this doing that. I think the mass is less, and I think that that's a key thing here when we looking at a 6-foot of pyramid variance for a roof line that might extend 20 feet in one direction and create some sort of block of view. I don't see that aesthetically this is damaging a neighbor. I'm not crazy about us giving that large a pyramid variance, but in the case in this one here, knowing how it's in character with other structures in the neighborhood, it's to the rear of the property. I'm not in a position to want to deny it, so I am going to approve this application.
Thank you. I'm agreeing with approving the application. I want to make a note. If you take a look at the variances for the shed, the variance notice is taken to the eaves of the shed. It's not taken to the foundation of the shed. So to me, it makes an impact even not as great. So if you look at the distance on the north property line, 9.9 feet, that's almost exactly there. And I can see that mistake being easily made by a builder. But the 9.1 to the foundation on the western side are a little bit disturbing to me, but I think that it is there. And as far as the pyramid for the cupola, I cannot find or think of a reason where the benefit to the owner cannot outweigh the detriment to the town. So I agree that this is in approving this entire application. Good, counsel?
Yes.
Okay, we move on to Susanna Plaza at 18th 6th Street, Kingstown Park Springs, tax map number 300-76-7-11.5. Size and location is 16,000 square feet at 18 6th Street, Kingstown Park, lots 5 through 12, block 8, map number 499, filed November 16th, 1911. The description is to allow an approximately 735 square foot patio to remain within side yard and front yard setbacks and to allow a shed to remain within side yard setbacks. Relief source 3 variances are needed for this application. Variances of 0.3 feet, 11.3 feet, and 0.1 feet are needed from 255-1110 of the Town of East Hampton Code to allow the patio to remain 19.7 feet from the front yard lot line where 20 feet is the minimum required, 3.7 feet from the southern lot line where 15 feet is the minimum required, and a shed to remain 9.9 feet from the eastern property line where 10 foot is the minimum required, and any other relief necessary. And the zoning district is B residence X flood zone, and the secret class is type 2. And this is in the vice chair. Lead us on this.
Yes.
Thank you. The public hearing was held on March 25th, 2025. Denise Shern was the attorney representing the application. The survey is prepared by Walbridge, was last revised 4/19/2023. Elliot Freeston, who is the most affected neighbor, sent a letter of support. Actually shares the backyard property line. Susan Plaza appeared on behalf of the application. Morgan Slater appeared on behalf of the planning department. The public hearing and record was closed and there were no callers. In 2022, a building permit was issued for a 440 square foot patio. The patio as it exists today is connected to a building permit for an addition to the house issued in 2023. The building permit also included a 72 square foot shed in a conforming location, and according to the TAM, the current location of the shed is in a more conforming location than what is depicted on the survey associated with the building permit in 2023. The total coverage on this lot is 5,105 square feet, where 8,000 square feet is allowed. The building coverage is 1,655 square feet, where 3,200 square feet is allowed. The property is 100% cleared and is pre-existing non-conforming, and there is an IA system installed by the applicants for their own, they're just very good stewards of the land. So I'm going to go through the standards. Whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or will create a detriment to nearby properties, and I don't believe it will. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. In a letter dated December 5th, 2023, the applicant stated that they just were not aware of the town's specific zoning regulations, so it was a mistake. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, I don't think they are. Whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or in the affected area of the town, I don't think it will. Whether the difficulty causing the applicant was to request an area variance was self-created. Yes, it was. But the applicant in a letter noted that she was unaware of the town's specific zoning regulations, and she purchased the house back the property back in 1999. If you did a field inspection on this property, you could visibly see that clearly the rear of the residence is where this family enjoys their outdoor life. And one of the things member Johan brought up during the public hearing as a condition of approval that they would have to maintain the vegetation to buffer the neighboring property. Now, I was there, I did a field inspection. I don't think the vegetation there was very robust. I would like to see something a little bit more robust, but I'm going to approve this application. I do think it meets the standards, and I'm going to approve it in its entirety.
Thank you. Ed?
You're welcome.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did we get them to promise to covenant that vegetation?
You brought it up and they
brought it up.
agreed. Yes, they did.
Yeah, but I can remember that they
Yes.
absolutely agreed to that. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a lot to add. Two of the variances requested are de minimis, 2 inches and about 4 inches in 2 directions here. I think that the other one that the larger of the two is that the 11.3 feet, because they're only 3'7" from the property line, had to do with that protection that we would get a guarantee for a covenant to protect it with vegetation. Whatever wording that suggested by the vice chair wants to go in covering that is fine. I didn't think that these were was a large problem. I thought how it sat on the property, having visited the property, I thought that this was not one that was going to be a real problem for me. And I do think that there is an option here to do something to protect it from the close line. Like I say, 2 of the variances here are just de minimis, and I don't think that they were really a concern. It was only the one. So I'm going to agree with the vice chair and approve this application.
Thank you. Terry?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to this. I too feel that the variances for the patio are pretty much de minimis, and that I had forgotten about the covenant to have the screening remain in perpetuity. So I do think this has no negative impact for the town or the neighborhood as a whole, and really it's there. It's been there for a long time. There are no real alternatives, and the variances are not substantial. And I believe that for the shed also. So I too are going to approve the whole application.
Thank you.
I always like to be called on. Okay, I see it a little bit differently. Well, I do see one of the variances differently than my fellow board members so far. But first, let me start with the shed. De minimis request, small shed, meets all the standards, and will approve that variance. I also see very non-impactful, very, very minimal, the reduction or the 3-inch setback variance to be at the patio along, I think it's, I call it the front yard lot line to be diminished. I do, however, remain or am concerned with the position and the proximity, the very close proximity of a significant amount of patio relative to the neighboring, the lot line between this and another property. I do appreciate what Vice Chair Severy said, that, you know, the rear of the property is where they enjoy a lot, perhaps, of their outdoor activity. However, I've said this before in other applications, and so although I want to be reasonable, I also do want to be consistent. I do think these types of setbacks are very important to maintain as close as possible to what is required in the code. These setbacks at, you know, sometimes they're 10 feet, sometimes they're 15 feet. They're, you know, pretty minimal to begin with. And I believe that you have also, I guess it was never made clear how the 440 square feet of patio that was approved in the building permit expanded to 735 square feet of patio. There was no survey. There were hand drawings and hand notes, but there was no survey that actually depicted the placement of these patios, you know, in a way, in a formal way. And I do, from the standards, you know, this is a pretty sizable property relative to the size of the house. Yes, I understand the house is set back in this portion of the corner. I don't think that screening buffers or blocks noise, and an outdoor patio, which will get a lot of activity and use, could very well disturb neighbors. And there seems to be many other places, potentially alternatives, to achieve significant outdoor patio space that can be enjoyed while being consistent with all setbacks. So for that reason, I'm going to deny the setback, the patio setback variance.
Thank you. I'm going to agree with my board members in approving this application for the reasons set forth. I don't have anything else to add. Thank you. All right, in other decisions, we have Sean Meehan at 69 Benson Drive at Montauk, Suffolk, tax map number 300-30-1-22, and it's a request to reopen the record. And board members, we've received a letter from the Adam Miller Group. If you remember this application, we had a discussion to deny the application. They're coming back to us with new information we want to receive into the record. This, I think, council, we are, the motion, if we do make a motion, is to just open the record and close it, not have a discussion. We'll have a discussion at a later date, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we did most recently. So I think the board is comfortable based on the letter to open and
I haven't
close it.
seen the letter. Should I have seen the letter?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see
And that's
it yet.
okay if you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
thought it
I
was
actually
supposed-
feel better
yeah.
that I didn't see the letter.
Okay, so,
The request there.
Right. Yeah.
So it's fine to not look at the plan. The letter is
Right.
requesting that the board consider reopening the record to allow this plan to go in.
that's correct.
And then,
Okay.
Chair, that will answer your question as to whether the board is prepared or not to talk about the plan, if they haven't reviewed it yet, because it's
Not
not
yet.
in the record.
That's
and
correct.
the best, you know, sort of best practice. So deal with just the request first,
Okay.
and then if it goes in, then you can deal with review of
So
that.
it's my understanding that they're coming back to us with a further request and want us to consider it. Board members, are we willing to open the record and accept the letter? We will also have the opportunity to discuss it in a future date and see whether it impacts our decision or not. So the consideration is to allow it into the record. Any questions? Any?
Yeah, I'm actually torn on reopening it, accepting it in. We've had this in the past with, applications and we'll have a denial. And we've gotten into the habit more recently of reopening and accepting something after there's been a denial. And I'm concerned that we do this in this case. What happened last year on many other applications, not many, but some other applications, is we had a 2-2 decision with 4 board members. And in that case, I know I'm personally more open to opening it, but in this case, this was, I believe it was a 4-1 denial that we had on this.
I think it was unanimous.
I think it was unanimous.
Unanimous denial?
Yeah. However, I did, just so you know, I did talk to council earlier about this, and as far as I know, the concern is process, right? So the town law does allow the zoning board to do this, and council, would you like to elaborate a little bit on that? But it does provide a pathway to do this, so I don't think we're doing something out of the ordinary if town law is allowing it.
Yeah, that's correct. And then just to remind the board, this is a mechanism available to an applicant during this process. Once you allow it in, as you know, you don't actually have to agree with or approve or change your vote based on the material being into the record. So I'll just state that. It doesn't, it shouldn't feel like just because you're letting it in, therefore you're changing the vote of the board.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, like I said, if it was a 2-2 decision, I'm more open to that. But this was a 5-member board, and
Well, we don't know that right now.
Getting
Well,
in
we
a bad
don't.
habit.
I understand. Well, I'm not sure if it's a bad habit if the town law allows it, but it could. We don't know the substance of the letter, and it could be that the substance of the letter is substantial enough to say, hey, we can give this further consideration. And I think we should, from a reasonable standard, allow that.
I mean,
I'll tell you what, I share some of the same concerns that Member Berger does. However, this is only a small window when you can ask to have it open. After a determination, you can. So I wouldn't like to think that we would get a full resubmission of significant amount of information. We opened recently for one a small suggestion that influenced some of our thinking. I'm going to go along with allowing it to be open, but I share that same concern that it doesn't become a regular process based on being too large. With a small window, I guess you can't redo your plans completely and then suddenly flood us with a whole new application. But that would be my concern. In this
I
case,
share that reservation.
yeah. Okay.
I just, and again, I raised this, we talked about something very similar, was it last week? And I know, Mr. Chair, the point you make that this is a process, part of a process that's allowed to an applicant. I know last week you used the word, we need to be reasonable. I also do think that even though it is an available path, I think it's also fair that board should have an expectation that an applicant is coming in with their sort of best application, especially since they have the benefit of reading a TAM and knowing they have the benefit of hearing what the board is, questioning and saying during a public hearing. They have a right and opportunity to ask to have the record left open. I think this one was left open. So all in, again, I just want to get that on the record because I think that waiting to see what the board thinks and then coming back in, it does consume resources, and I don't think it's the best process, even though it's a legitimate path. So I will vote along with my board members to open the record to take it in. But again, it's just something, that I think it's worth the continued conversation.
I agree with the reservations. No, so I will say though, it does in the way I see it. I think that if there is a resolution that can be easily done, I mean, we're going to make it easy. We're not dragging this on. And I think the intent, it would not be to drag it on. And I don't think that is our intent. But otherwise, then the applicant has to file another application if they want to change it and go through the process and ties up more resources. So I think, again, I will use the word reasonable, but I think it is reasonable. So I appreciate it, the discussion. How about you, Denise? Did you weigh in?
I mean, obviously have the same reservation.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of discussion during this. No, I don't know what the letter says, but there was discussion during the public hearing about alternatives. And maybe they're coming back with a better alternative.
Yeah.
So I think just to be fair, I kind of agree with Member Berger. This is a slippery slope, and we don't want to waste the board's time after we put so much time and effort into an application. But I would be willing to agree to it and see what is being offered. And down the road, regardless of what they do, I think it looks good that we're working with the applicant. So I'm going to agree to reopen the record.
Thank you. Somebody want to make a motion?
Terry, you want me to make it since you're not in agreement?
Well, I may as well agree, but but no,
Terry,
really.
I totally get what you're
No,
saying.
but I know, but it's kind of odd too, that we've had more and more of these since we had those first few with the 2-2 votes. And you want to keep doing this? Okay. All right. I make a motion to reopen the record for Sean Meehan at 69 Benson Drive, Montauk, tax map 300-30-1-22.
Second it?
I concur.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you.
Make a motion to,
Nope, that's it.
oh, that's right. Okay.
no,
I'm not
close the record. You're gonna
No,
make
to
a
close the
motion.
record.
My bad.
Yes, okay. I
Yep,
make a
right.
motion for Sean Meehan at 69 Benson Drive, Montauk, tax map 300-30-1-22, to close the public record now that we accepted this.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Next, we have Hispaniola Trust LLC, 9 Shipwreck Drive, Amagansett, sub-tax map number 300-152-2-8.36. It's a modification of a 2021 determination. Tyler?
Okay, this one is Morgan's. It's a bit involved. I will do my very best to explain what happened. in this one.
And could you just blow that up a little bit?
Sure. I just wanted to show that there's, significant wetlands that surround the property on
Right.
the east side there.
That's all the hatched area is wetlands?
The hatched area is an easement.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
wetland would be this orange triangles with bluish
Got it.
greenish line.
Thank you.
So this is the original approval, just for reference. The original approval with an NRSP for a pool house, garage, a shed relocation to legalize an outdoor shower, and pathway and to upgrade an IA sanitary system. The only work that has been completed associated with this was the removal of the structure from the scenic easement, which was down here. This thing down here got removed.
So this has not been moved forward yet?
No, the only work that's been done was the removal of that structure. They haven't constructed anything new yet. There is a proposed fence along the boundary of the scenic easement that is also depicted on the 2021 survey, but is not mentioned in the determination. The planning department recommends that the board specify that this should be a split rail fence. This is the current modification survey. And if you need me to zoom in on anything, I certainly can.
Yeah, what's,
Yeah.
Try not to get too crazy with the
So
zoom in,
what's
but-
changing?
A number of things. One is to remove one of the approved sheds completely. So this shed here and this walkway will be gone completely from the project. That's easy. To connect the garage and pool house via a covered deck right here, this small proposed porch.
I'm sorry, show it again. Move your
It's,
cursor.
right here. I don't know.
Seeing the cursor, I'm sorry.
You not see it? Oh,
Yeah,
bad.
oh,
You need to go
red
over there.
So like northwest of the pool is a garage and a pool house, and then they're just going to connect it with a roof between the two.
so they're going to be connected with a decking. Is that what you said?
With like a roof
Oh, okay.
to connect
I
out.
want to connect it. It's
A wall and a roof or just?
Just a roof, from what I can tell.
between a garage and what's that?
Pool house.
A pool house?
The One of the issues is this proposed garage is now proposed to be 99.7 feet from wetlands, which would require variance, whereas originally it was approved at 100 feet. So one of our suggestions would be to, if you were okay with the idea, and I generally okay with the idea, would be to require them to push it back to 100 feet in order to then get a building permit for it.
Right.
Is the garage at the maximum 600 or?
It says it's 380 square
Okay.
feet. They revised the sanitary system upgrade because the one associated with the original approval did not meet Suffolk County Health Department standards for separation of groundwater. The refurbishment of the existing swimming pool with no increase in footprint, so they're going to essentially reconstruct that pool within the same footprint.
So there's a pool already that they're replacing?
There's already an existing
Okay.
swimming pool, yes.
Mhm.
They're going to reorient the gravel driveway slightly. Remove and replacement of access stairs to the residence. These stairs are more than 4 feet in width. You can see them in red now. They're in the same footprint as the existing, I guess, landing, but they're putting more steps in, and then they're also putting a walkway in. The walkway would be a natural resources special permit. We're okay with that. And the steps are within the same footprint as that existing landing. So I think overall it's a wash as far as that's concerned. The building coverage has decreased 581 square feet. Total lot coverage has decreased 291 square feet. The proposed revegetation is not depicted on the survey, which is expected to reduce the clearing by 7,400 square feet. So there's a lot of things going on.
But that decrease in, the increase in revegetation was part of the original.
Yes, yeah. There was always a revegetation required. The big thing is that garage moving closer to wetlands, but I think the board could probably condition the modification that it meet 100 feet. And that would probably be sufficient for it getting a building permit.
How far is the garage from the pool house?
I don't know.
They want to cover up.
It's weird. No, it's never.
I'm not familiar enough with Firefox to with Foxit to measure. Sure thing in here.
Please.
72 inches. Oh, 5 feet roughly.
Yeah, it's 5 feet.
Must already be set.
Okay, isn't that like the distance they have to be apart from
Right.
each other?
That would be the normal
So,
fire
but
code
if we
distance.
have them move the pool, what was the pool now, 99?
The
The garage.
The garage.
Garage, the garage, not the pool.
99.7.
99.7.
Everything would have to shift a little bit.
So the suggestion is to condition it on the garage meeting the 100-foot setback
Right.
and
Meeting code.
That
board
means
members, are we okay with that?
it is.
Yes, as long as they meet that 100-foot.
Yes.
Council, were there changes made related to, I know there was a lot of discussion about covering across
This came in before.
accessory structures.
that.
Yeah, I know, but since it's a modification and they're asking for,
No, the modification came in before that.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. And then,
If it came in today, it wouldn't be allowed.
I didn't know where the timing was, okay. And then just also, since the health department flagged that the septic system did not meet separation to groundwater, just was the new pool vetted at the time relative to groundwater?
It was prior to the IA system.
The swimming pool existed at the time. It wasn't a new
But
swimming.
they're built, they're redoing, they're,
Put it in place.
Now it's an IA system that it wasn't before.
The sanitary is, yeah.
no, I understand, but I thought they're replacing the pool. So yes, the health department flagged the sanitary system, the septic system. I was just curious because if they're really, even though it's in place, in kind, they're going to rebuild it. I was just curious, does the pool, was it vetted at the time to meet separation to groundwater?
I
Or,
believe it was being replaced at that time. Yeah, it just existed. It had always existed.
Okay.
so we don't know if it meets separation to groundwater.
And I'm not familiar enough with the application to say one way or the other.
So we're accepting it's being replaced in kind.
Yes.
Jay,
I'm good with it.
we good with
Yeah.
this?
Mhm.
We're making a motion.
Yes, of course. In the matter of Hispaniola Trust LLC, 9 Shipwreck Drive, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-152-2-8.36, I make a motion to approve the modification of the 2021 determination as presented to us.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Next, we have Trip at 65 Wood Drive in Montauk. It's a modification of a 2024 determination.
Okay, so this application originally was granted approval for the corner of this deck to be constructed 10.8 inches from the front yard lot line. The homeowner did the construction themselves, and the as-built conditions extend further into the setback at 9.6 feet. So after they did the construction, it's now slightly closer to the front yard lot line than what was originally approved by the board.
So we approved 10.8 and now they made it 9.6. Again, they did their
Correct.
own work.
It's like 10 inches, right?
I'm sorry, it's 10.8 inches further into the setback.
So it's less conforming.
Yes, by 10
And-
point, by 10
It's
point.
less.
And we had already granted a variance.
9.6, is that what?
You had granted a variance for 10 point something, and now it's at,
Where 15 was required?
correct.
So this
Now
was,
it's at 9.6.
this was mine, and remember, if we look at the road here,
But, okay.
that the property line is significantly back from the road. What entered into our thinking at the time was that there was a rather large buffer from the road to the house, even though the property line is so close to the house. So that was why we gave, I think, a significant
I
approval.
remember that.
Because there was
There was a lot of vegetation.
A significant
I think it was
amount
mine,
of mature
actually, but yeah, there was a
vegetation
lot of
protecting it.
vegetation.
so it was really an
Between that and the
invisible
road.
change to the public.
They've also already filed their CNRs that the vegetated screening be maintained. And that's been filed with the county already.
Yeah.
So that's in place.
And why did this happen?
The homeowner did it themselves, I think, just because it's a complicated corner of the property that they just, they were off slightly.
Well, they had to come to us because it had been squared off
No, I
by
remember, yeah.
him. And then, yeah,
It ends up being
okay.
a very small corner of that deck that's out of, what was.
I'm okay with it also,
Yeah.
but I wish
I
they'd
think it's.
measure twice and cut once.
It's invisible enough.
Gotta put that on my flat.
All right. Can we have a motion, please?
Then in the case of Trip 65 Wood Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300 dash, what is it, 68? Yeah, dash 9-6. I'd like to make a motion to accept the modification to the 2024 determination.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Concur. Thank you. Next, we have Shapiro at 8 Ocean Lane in Amagansett, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-176-3-10. It's a revegetation final submission.
So this revegetation needs approval by the board prior to a building permit being issued. The total area of revegetation is 4,540 square feet. It proposes, the proposed shrubs are bayberry for the upland area, and high bush blueberry for some lowland areas that can get wet from time to time. Grasses include American beach grass and little blue stem. There's also a root barrier being used as part of the bamboo remediation, which we're perfectly fine with. And the plan overall is satisfactory to the planning department, but the zoning board does need to vote to approve the plan.
Where's the barrier going? The bamboo root barrier. Because if I remember correctly, they're removing, I think it's all along the whole rear lot line and the southern.
Imagine it'd be along that rear yard,
Right.
since that's where all the bamboo came from. I don't know.
Yeah, can I ask just a question for my knowledge building? When people remove bamboo, do we give them, does Natural Resource or anyone give them a very specific protocol of how to remove? Because I know we've had discussions in other applications where we've talked about it, and it's considered to be highly sort of disturbing. I mean, it's great to get it out. I just wanted to understand.
Depends, as far as the zoning board, it depends on the area that it's being done in. If it's in close proximity to wetlands, I know that they've asked for a construction protocol before. There was one over, I forget where it was. It was like northeast of this property, further out in Beach Hampton somewhere, where the board got a construction protocol because it was like right next to wetlands.
Right.
In this case, they're across the street from wetlands, so it probably wasn't as pressing of a concern.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got a construction protocol. It wasn't my application, but that would be my guess as to why, if there isn't one, why there isn't one, because it's not as big of a concern.
All in all,
I'm sorry, could I just ask one more question? Because I know during the public hearing, right, the neighbor to the south obviously has been talking a lot about the water standing. And again, it's not an official wetland, but there's a recognition that there's a lot of water standing and gathering. Does that root barrier have any impact in exacerbating the flooding on a neighboring property? I can't remember how deep, because they do go deep, right?
I'm not familiar enough to be able to opine on something like that. It does say that it's going to be along the property line. The root barrier shall be installed just inbound to property lines which border remaining bamboo stands on adjacent properties.
I would guess that it's not. Knowing how these are done, I would think it's not going to affect, in some way, restrict flooding.
Yeah, I don't have the experience, so I just wanted to understand.
I don't think they go super deep.
I know, just wanted
we
to
have an
understand.
approved survey, approved revegetation plan. You looked at this and are okay with it, is that right?
We were okay with it, yes.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
We have a motion.
In the matter of Shapiro, 8 Ocean Lane, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-176-3-10, I make a motion to accept or approve, I guess we're approving it, approve the final revegetation plan submission.
Second.
Concur.
Concur, thank you. Next, we have my wife really likes it at 1 Association Road in Wayne Scott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-8. It's a recommended negative declaration.
So this is similar to what we discussed before. Brian sent around the assessment as well as the type 2 and type 3 of it's again, all the answers are no, limited impacts. It's for removing Phragmites. The board already approved this to go administratively, and we're at, I think, the end of the 20-day notice period. We haven't received any comments. So this is just, noting that it's a negative declaration according to SECRA, no adverse impacts, so they can move forward with the draft and then the final permit.
Board members, we okay with approving this?
I'm okay with it.
Yep, okay.
As far as, do we have to make the motion for lead agency is 2, Tyler?
I don't know if you had already. I don't know if there are any other involved agencies. The DEC.
It wouldn't hurt if I covered it anyway then.
Yeah. I mean, you certainly can, and then make a negative declaration, and that's all you really need to do.
Right, okay, therefore I make a motion on, my wife really likes it, at 1 Association Road in Wayne Scott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-8, to make a declaration of lead agency and negative declaration.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you. We have the draft minutes of March
Let's
25th.
make a motion to approve the draft minutes for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for Tuesday, March 25th.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. We have resolutions, 10 Homestead LLC in Springs at 300, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-24-5-28. And Denise?
Yes. Trying to remember. This was, I think this was to allow an existing deck to remain. I think it was a very de minimis variance. I think it was like 3.4 feet. This was Member Thorson's first public hearing. I believe Chairman Deline was not present at this one, so I'd like to make, so it was a 4-1 to approve. I'd like to make a motion to approve the determination as written for 10 Homestead, LLC, 10 Homestead Lane Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-24-5-28.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur. Thank you. We have 80 Firestone Road and LLC at 80 Firestone Road, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-17-1-5. This was a modification, was it not?
Yeah.
Yes, you want to make?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but I guess part of it was for, some of the patios had increased in size, almost doubled in size on these cottages. These are the 4 resort cottages. And there was some additional size adage also on some of the cottages. And then if they had, in the original plans, there were roof decks for all of them. It turns out only one roof deck, one cottage was going to get the roof deck and the others aren't. And then there was some retaining walls, which might have been the most significant for us on the, I guess it's the northern side or eastern side of the property that were built. And we did approve the modifications as they were. So I do make a motion to approve the resolution for 80 Firestone Road LLC at 80 Firestone Road in Montauk, tax map 300-17-1-5.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Thank you. Next, we have Hampton Lane LLC at
Have Hampton
We
Lane?
don't have it.
Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't see it.
I
Yeah.
wanted to do it, but I had some changes.
Okay, so we put that off?
Yep.
We have Palladino?
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
We do, yes, we do. Michael Palladino at 124 Old Westlake Drive, Montauk, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-20-5-7.
This was mine. This was a case where we had a deck that required, around a pool that required a relief, for variance relief. Most of the discussion was about a fence, where a fence would be located. We agreed to approve this application if the fence was moved further from the wetlands, which it was agreed to, and it moved forward that way. Then I'd like to make a motion to accept the determination for Michael Palladino at 124 Old Westlake Drive, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-20-5-7.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Concur. Council, the other 3, Schultz, Green Acres, and my wife really like, we already made those motions, correct?
So you
So we don't need to go through it.
After you discussed it, I put it into our secret determination.
Oh, so we still need to make a motion?
So you should make a motion to adopt these resolutions as drafted and
Okay.
for the benefit of the
And,
board.
okay.
For the benefit of the board, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to just read sort of at the end so the board can hear all that you are resolving to. It will be the same for all 3.
Yes, I got it.
Just the project description. Those 2 are the same.
Oh, yeah.
My wife really likes its project description. It's slightly different, but the rest
Okay.
is the same.
Now, in a matter of Schultz, at 1 Eel Cove Road, Wayne Scott, Suffolk Tax Map number 300-200-3-9, be it resolved that therefore the ZBA finds as follows: the ZBA does hereby classify the action as an unlisted action. The ZBA does hereby assume the role of lead agency. The ZBA does hereby adopt the contents and conclusions set forth in the attached EAF Part 2. The ZBA does hereby adopt the contents and conclusions set forth in the attached EAF Part 3 and Part 3 addendum. The ZBA chairperson is authorized to complete and sign the determination of significance of the EAF Part 3, declaring as set forth therein that the action will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment. The ZBA does hereby issues this negative declaration, so move.
Second.
I concur.
Should I read them again? I don't need to read that anymore. Therefore, in Green Acres LLC, 3 Eel Cove Road in Wainscott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-20, make a motion to, in the resolution for, as read it through the previous application.
Second.
Second.
Concur.
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 Now, my wife, when you stepped out, we did make the secret determination on. My wife really likes it.
Okay, so what I went downstairs to get those, and I also printed,
Oh, you have that?
I printed the EAF for myself because the project description is a little different. But I'm gonna plug it into, the resolution's gonna read the same way as the ones that you just read.
Okay, so should,
You're moving the same way.
okay, so
I'm fine with it if you guys are comfortable just adopting the resolution for that one to read the same way as prior to.
therefore, my wife really likes it. 1 Association Road, Wainscott, Suffolk, tax map number 300-200-3-8 to approve the resolution for a secret determination.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the Zoning Board of Appeals on April Fool's Day, 2025 at 8:06 PM.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Concur.